Here's an idea. Wisdom is bae. She'll cost you everything, but you don't have to pay for it. In this Devo on the fly, we're talking about the topic of wisdom, but before we can talk about wisdom, I have to tell you about the time that I ate fire ants. Yes, I ate fire ants. Why, you might ask? Peer pressure. Sort of. There was a time in high school where I ran cross country, and we had a lot of downtime in between races because as we're waiting for the female runners to finish up, of course we're out in the woods because that's where you do cross country meets. And as we're waiting to run, my friends spot a fire ant hill. Now they look at it and they look at me and they say, "Hey Sam, I dare you to eat a fire ant." Not wanting my shallow masculinity to be challenged, I decided, of course I'll eat a fire ant. So I Jackie Chan style grabbed a fire ant as quick as I could. I was just like, whoop-ah! And shoved that thing in my mouth, just swallowed it whole right then and there. Then I looked to the challenger and I said, "I did it, why can't you?" So of course he decides to eat a fire ant as well and does the same thing. Not wanting to be outdone and not wanting my masculinity to be challenged, I decide it's time to eat a second fire ant, because what's better than one fire ant? Two fire ants. So I grabbed the next fire ant, whoop-ah! Swallowed the thing whole just like the first, and that's when I start to feel it. The burning sensation in my stomach. It was like liquid fire was inside of me. My friend, not wanting to be outdone, decides he's about to eat the second fire ant as well. And so I cry out to him in pain saying, "Don't do it." Now he thinks that I'm trying to walk him away from the edge of not outdoing me. So he eats the second fire ant. Long story short, we don't run the race that day, my friend and I, because we are in the fetal position, crying out in pain. My friend was actually in so much pain that he threw up everything in his stomach, which, weirdly enough, he had spaghetti that day, and it was blue. Now here's the kicker. That night, I went home, and there was none other than Bear Grylls' Survivor Man on TV. And guess what Bear Grylls decided to eat that day? Fire ants. That's right, Bear Grylls was eating fire ants on live TV, and he looks to the camera and says, "Now, if you're going to eat these fire ants, it's important that you chew off the heads first and spit them out, because the mandibles will continue to bite even after death until their ATP runs out." Yeah, I learned a lesson way too late. Now, you probably learned the lesson before you ever ate the fire ants that, hey, I probably should not eat these. But here's what I love about this story. Wisdom could have been earned from my friend by me telling him, "Hey, don't eat the second one." Wisdom probably could have dictated, "Don't eat fire ants in the first place." And I could have learned from Bear Grylls from the very beginning, I probably shouldn't eat these, or at least eat them in the way that I did. In fact, if I would have seen the Bear Grylls episode before, I would have looked a lot cooler. And that's why today we're going to Proverbs chapter 4, verses 5 through 7. And Proverbs chapter 4, 5 through 7 says this: "Get wisdom, get insight, and do not forget, do not turn away from the words of my mouth. Do not forsake her, and she will keep you. Love her, and she will guard you. The beginning of wisdom is this: get wisdom, and whatever you get insight." Now, what I love about this is this shows wisdom in two different lights. Number one is this: you need to understand that wisdom, like the decision-making process that God is talking about here, wisdom always comes with a price. It costs you your experience. Whether it be your blood, your sweat, or your tears, wisdom will always cost you something. It's always going to affect your life in some way too if you don't have the wisdom. But the beauty about wisdom is you don't have to pay the price yourself. In fact, you can actually have someone else pay for it. That's why you have older, wiser people in your life. You have small group leaders and youth pastors and coaches and teachers and parents who have already paid for the experience that you need. So you don't have to experience it yourself. That's why the Bible tells us, get wisdom. Ask the people around you. Let them pay the price for you so that you're not in the fetal position because you ate fire ants. That's probably only an occasion that happened to me, but you get the point. Now, another thing that this passage tells us is this, that wisdom's kind of like a relationship. Like it compares wisdom to a female because the person that this guy's talking to is a male, and he's saying wisdom's kind of like almost a relationship that you have with someone. Before you act out on what you're about to do, ask yourself, how is this going to affect my relationship with wisdom? Is this wise? Like if I buy this stuff, will I have enough money left over? How is this going to affect my wisdom? If I make this decision to stay out all night, how is this going to affect school or work tomorrow? That's wisdom. It's all about this relationship that you have. So remember, two things that you need to understand about wisdom is, number one, it comes with a price, but you don't have to pay for it. And number two, it's kind of like a relationship. You have to understand how it affects you in that relationship.